my name's Tim. I'm an alcoholic. Very glad to be here. I'm not quite sure where in Connecticut you are. I spend some of my summer each year in Connecticut. I was in Woodbury this year. Some of you are nodding. Um, Others are baffled. Um, on the reading, um, I'm a bit of a big book person. Um, I find the Daily Reflections an interesting book because almost every reading is a sequence of non sequiturs, as though a sort of spiritual magic eight ball is employed in its construction. Um, but what one can profitably do, and what I'm going to do, is to pick one phrase from it and work with that. And the phrase I want to pick is this one: our whole treasured philosophy of self sufficiency had to be cast aside. Um, Before one examines the casting aside, what is self sufficiency? I think my alcoholism is a very good example of self sufficiency. Uh, my thoughts or emotions or impulses, to me, were entirely sufficient to determine what I was going to do. If I wanted a drink, well, who did the wanting? I did. Did I consult anyone? No. I am sufficient. I shall decide this. Well, and I had a drink, and then I had another drink, then I had another drink. Every drink I had was at my own behest. Every drink I had seemed like a frightfully good idea at the time. And it seems like a good idea until it doesn't. And then you keep doing it anyway, even though you know it's not a good idea. I drank between, there were some incidents before this time, but I drank very consistently between January 1989 and July 1993. I've been sober since July 1993. Uh, the reason why self-sufficiency had to be cast aside in the first instance in relation to alcohol was because if I was to decide what I was going to do, I was going to die of alcoholism. Now, that didn't trouble me for a long time. I would tell people drunkenly, um, lurching around at 3 or 4 in the morning, that I was an alcoholic. I would say this when I was 18, 19, 20, and I was perversely proud of this fact. I didn't really understand what it meant. I didn't understand two things: the long, slow, typically unpleasant death it entails. I remember repeating to someone in AA a line I apparently had read somewhere or heard somewhere, which I thought was very impressive. So I thought I would say it: for me to drink is to die. And she said, if you're lucky. So that was one fact about alcoholism. It was likely going to be slow and unpleasant. Secondly, I think it's said quite wrongly in AA, it's like a sort of downward elevator. One can get off at any floor one wishes. I don't think that's true at all. I think one has to wait for it to stop at a floor, and then the door may or may not open, and then it may carry on. I was wishing and willing my alcoholism to let me go for quite a long time before it actually did. The book is very clear on that. Bill saying I was last separated from alcohol on blah blah blah. He doesn't say I rationally thought it through and made the decision, and he was separated, and that's pretty much my experience. All of the evidence was there for a long time that I should stop and stop forever. But could I stop? No. I couldn't countenance stopping. The opportunity to stop appears to be a gift, and one cannot will the giving of a gift. Uh, put these two together, and I found myself in July 1993 in a position where if I did not grab the opportunity I had been given, there was no certainty it would be given again. And the great benefit of attending as many AA meetings as I had attended up to that point was not the program that was presented, it was the observation, the spectacle of people who were on a slip and trying to come back to AA and unable to put more than a day or 2 or 3 days of sobriety together. That was what was waiting for me if I didn't treat this seriously. So the abandonment, the casting aside is an interesting thing. It's rather like abandoning a ship. One can't do it slowly. If one tries to abandon ship and leaves one part of the body on the ship, I'm afraid the whole body is still on the ship. If one tries to cast something aside, there is a moment at which it's no longer in one's hand and then it is being moved by the forces of physics. To cast aside self-sufficiency, as I said, I don't think it's a gradual thing. I think it's a sudden thing where I made the decision. I remember the precise feeling of saying, I cannot be trusted with me. If I'm left to my own devices, a drink will seem like a good idea. I will have the drink, and then a physical process will take over, which will result in potentially me never stopping. Therefore, I must not be in charge. Someone tell me what to do. And a sponsor told me what to do. Um, Sometimes people bleat on about how wonderful it is. It's all just suggestions. I don't see the benefit in this at all. It might be all suggestion means to me, from the point of view of the sponsor, is the sponsor has no direct authority to impose or instruct or order or mandate or anything. It can only be politely offered. That's what the suggestion is from the point of view of the sponsor. However, if one is drowning and one is thrown as they say, a life preserver. This is not a suggestion. It is the one opportunity for survival. The question of suggestion at the receiving end is moot. That's meant for the offerer of the instructions. By the time it's left the person's mouth, it ceases to be a suggestion and becomes a lifesaver because the alternative is self-reliance. Where did self-reliance get me? It got me needing to come to AA. Now, of course, one would wish to be home and dry at this point. I made a mistake which I think is almost uh, universal in AA. I'm sure some people escape it. But I made the mistake of believing that the AA program, whilst wonderful in keeping me sober, thank you very much, got that sorted out now, would come in frightfully useful in helping me get everything I thought I deserved in the world. You see, the big reason I think alcoholism was bothering me was because it was getting in the way of me getting my own way of money, power, um, security, all of these other things, the attainment of objectives, the fulfillment of ambitions. And for many years, I tried to use the program as a set of tools for living successfully a essentially materialistic life with God as a sort of elf on the shelf or helpmeet in emergencies rather than that to which I surrender completely. I had to get to a point a number of years sober where, uh, with regard to everything but alcohol, the same principle applied. I was going to destroy myself if I tried to live like regular people, having my own security and ambitions and objectives being the center and main objective of my life. I had to abandon that completely. When I, in step 3, make a decision to turn my will and life over to God, when I made that decision, that really does mean to me it is not my life anymore. I don't think the meaning can be plainer. But what happens is a 24-hour period is given back to me to use as directed by the higher power. I'm not to be concerned with anything but that. When I live like that, things are very good. And right now, things are very good. That's 10 minutes. I'm going to stop there. Thanks for listening.